ready?
This is February 15th, Board of Finance. I'm calling the meeting to order. Dee, do we have any public comment?
No public comments.
Thank you. Administrative Officer, Director of Finance report. Tony.
Thank you. I have your report through January of 2024. We have an estimated surplus, budget surplus of just over $1 million. As you know, our budget process includes an allocation of fund balance of $800,000, which means that our fund balance, if this was to happen, would increase slightly by $273,000. Would leave us at a fund balance of $2.3 million or 14.86% of our annual expenses. So a couple of the highlights for you. Of course, our interest income is the one major item that has generated considerable interest and is therefore a surplus of $270,000 for the current year. Intergovernmental revenue is a surplus generated of approximately $241,000. That's the majority of that is from the state of Connecticut Municipal Revenue Sharing Account, which is largely dependent on the state's performance. And if they perform well, then you get some surplus funds based on a formula. I hear that in the budget process, the governor is thinking of removing that from the budget. So we never really budget for it, so it doesn't really impact our budget in terms of setting the mill rate, but that is funds we do receive from time to time. The rest of the governor's budget was pretty we were pretty much held harmless. We actually got some small increases in a few areas, which we'll go through when we go through the budget. I think it's early March. Is it the 7th? We have that meeting?
March 7th is the
7th,
next
yeah.
budget meeting.
Yeah. So those are our revenue highlights. For our expenditures, I just want to mention in the police department, where we used to fund the SRO at Beecher School, and the way this budget was built for this year was that the police department, the school, Beecher School, would use a police officer on force, and the total is approximately $130,000, and we would then bill the district, the school district, for the cost related to the officer. So in the police budget, there was about $90,000 from of anticipated transfer of revenue from the Board of Education to cover the cost of the SRO, which is paid for out of the police department, but we would charge the expenditure to the school. Well, since they've switched how they're doing that, and they now are using not using a uniformed police officer in Woodbridge, they're no longer going to be transferring us that money. So therefore, that creates a $90,000 problem in the police budget. So they save the money, but we are actually having a deficit as a result. Not sure that it'll cause a deficit in the department because they've had a number of vacancies, but we're sort of monitoring the situation here. And it could be a problem, but at the moment we're hopeful that it is not. And I know they have one more opposition that they have left to fill, and then they'll be at full staff.
Okay.
So, and finally, our retirement is we've gone over before. That's a projected surplus of about $175,000. We do have some projected healthcare deficit of about $75,000. So that leaves about $100,000 surplus in benefits. Those are our major items for the year.
Any questions on the financial report?
We did the Amity,
Oh, I'm sorry, I forgot.
on the last page here.
Yeah, and then Amity should be reducing our March payment by $451,000 from the 2023 operations. I hear that I'm not sure that that's the case for 2024.
It was reduced to 4.58% increase from 4.5. So the amount to us is going to be 462.85.
Oh, 462,805. Yeah, okay.
And that's
Yeah. Okay. Okay.
Okay, we're talking about, any other questions on that? And what about Woodbridge? What about Beecher? Are we doing that report?
Usually the liaison. Is that
Yeah,
it?
they didn't they didn't have a meeting because of the snowstorm, but I think they have a little bit of a surplus, as you can see in there.
Yeah.
There's a couple of questions I thought I'd bring up when we get to the liaison report.
Okay, all right. We're gonna do funding requests. Let me see the order that we have in here.
First one should be 23-24-12.
Hang on a second. Don't get pushy.
While you're looking, if you run
Don't
across it.
get pushy, and I'm gonna say it again. Thank you very much. Okay? There we go. Okay. So I will make a motion that we approve line item transfer 23-24-12 in the amount of $5,000.
Second.
Tony, you wanna tell us about this?
Certainly. The Parks Department has some expensive repairs on their equipment in preparation for the spring. And so they are transferring it from their own budget, part-time seasonal. Part-time seasonal are seasonal employees, which can vary from year to year based on availability and season.
Any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Any abstentions? Okay. I will make a motion that we approve line item transfer 23-24-13 in the amount of $12,673. Tony, you want to tell us about that? Oh, wait, I need a second.
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 This is for expenditures related to the work in the pool filter room in preparation of reopening the pool. There was, as you know, we installed filters, and there were some additional costs related to that, which I was able to find in this budget.
Any questions? Discussion?
Work's been done, right, Tony?
Yes,
Work
work's been done and the
okay.
pool is filled with water,
Okay, good.
All in favor?
And it's not leaking.
and it's not leaking. Right?
All in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Abstentions? Okay. Next is, line item transfer. I'll make a motion that we approve 23-24-14 in the amount of $15,000.
Second. Much needed.
I'm sure the
I know he's voting
Very
yes,
happy.
that's not.
I'm not on the board. I can't vote for anything.
I should just explain. this.
Sure, so this is actually a recorded transfer from grant funds that we received for the replacement of the TriCaster system, which is basically a video production system, correct?
Yes. It's effectively what allows us to take our meetings and live stream them to Channel 79.
Right.
This has been out of commission since the tail end of January due to a software glitch that we have been unable to resolve even after hard resetting the entire machine and starting from scratch. So we decide to replace the entire machine. That way we can, we have the quote for the purchase on standby. We'll be ordering it probably after the weekend so that it doesn't get delivered during President's Day when there is nobody at Town Hall to receive the package.
For the record, Matt, state your name and the capacity in which you're talking to us about.
Yes, my name is Matthew DeBudo, address 6 Timberland Way, Beacon Falls, Connecticut.
You don't need our address, just the
Well,
capacity that you're in.
sorry, I used, this is for Woodbridge Government Access Television.
Thank you, okay,
Yeah, good.
okay.
Very good.
Any questions for Matt or for Tony? All in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Abstentions? Okay, congratulations.
Thank you.
Yeah, whenever that happens. And I will make a motion that we approve line item transfer 23-24-15 in the amount of $3,400 to unanticipated purchase of computers.
Correct.
What
How
department
do
is
you
this?
accidentally purchase computers? No.
Well, we have a approved computer replacement schedule. These were on schedule for,
Surprise!
yeah,
Oh, okay.
and they didn't quite last as long as we thought they
Oh,
Stuff happens.
okay.
were. Right.
I heard a second, that's
Yeah,
second.
yeah.
Any further explanation? No? Any questions?
What department was that for?
One is the selectman's office, and one is at the animal control.
We haven't explored like leasing arrangements or anything for that stuff?
Nah, they usually last us a long time. computers. And we don't have like heavy users, so but we looked into
He's
leasing.
got a journalist computer now.
Just kidding.
Well, they generally, I'm finding that they're generally way past what they normally are. They should be, so what's the normal?
Well, I'm waiting for
Normal,
somebody.
you know, can time, wear time, that,
I'm gonna say some go could be 5 years.
yeah. If they're not used
They're
every day.
not used every day, or they used for word processing and,
Yeah,
you know, calendars and emails.
yeah.
Well, some,
Yeah.
given that it's animal control, I'm surprised you're not saying that the dog ate my computer. All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Abstention? All right, good.
Can I make one good comment, Susan? I just want to comment that these departments, I told Tony I was gonna do this sort of re-blindsiding, but once again, it's moving on, and it's really good. Our departments and the finance department, they're very good at doing line item transfers, so we're not digging in, and I'm just proud of all of you for, you know, we're not digging into contingency, they're finding money in the budgets till we get through, April, when the SMOW starts.
Right,
So,
right.
thank you to you guys and to all town departments for keeping an eye on this.
And there's a very nice spreadsheet in our packet that demonstrates that this month, if anybody takes a look at that.
When you try to schedule, you know, non-essential purchases and for later in the year, so that if something comes up, you can, you know,
Right.
I guess that's what you're supposed to do.
Okay, we're done with funding requests. We're moving on to policy review, and let me give a little context for this. We have a lot of new people on both the Board of Selectmen and the Board of Finance. I've been on both boards for I don't even know how many years, and I don't think these policies have ever been reviewed in my recollection. So Tony and I had the thought that over the course of the next 6-8 months, our regular budget meetings, we should just spend a moment and let him explain these policies that are of record, educate the public, we'll all get up to speed, and it'll be a little bit more efficient going forward from an education point of view. Yes? Good? Okay, good.
And there's a number of policies that, there are some, the first several, I try to do a couple a month.
Yeah,
The first few months will be ones that exist, and eventually we'll get into some policies that we don't have that, you know, we should review and act on.
what do you mean policies we don't have? You
Like,
mean
things we do. that-
challenges that we have that should be put in policy?
Procedures that we follow that are not put in policy.
Gotcha, there you go. The dog ate my policy, okay. Where do you wanna start? We've got fund balance.
So these are two of our more discussed policies, and I try to put the, you know, these are more important ones first.
Right.
First is our fund balance policy.
Yep,
And our fund balance policy is sort of a policy that guides the use of the fund balance. I know that's discussed from time to time. And the fund balance policy has a number of objectives, which includes preserving our creditworthiness of the town, provides financial resources in time of emergency, in unforeseen expenditures. It provides mill rate relief in subsequent budget years, which we use it for. And we just most recently increased it from 400,000 to 800,000 in our budget last year, in this current year's budget, as an example of that. And finally, for any other purpose that the Board of Selectmen and Finance may deem appropriate. In prior years, one year we purchased open space with the fund balance. And that's what that comes to mind immediately. There's a few like one-time capital purchases that have happened from time to time. The policy goes on to explain the different types of fund balance that exist in our financials. I think the one that is most important here is the unassigned fund balance, which is basically fund balance that doesn't have a restriction or a designation put on it. So our current policy is that our fund balance is between 8 and 14%. As you can see from our previous report, it's a little over 14%. I think because that's just an estimate and a guideline, we'll wait and see how the year plays out. But that's just a projection. And then once the end of the year comes, we'll see where it is in actual terms.
okay, any questions from the group? I mean, we've all talked about fund balance over the years, we've all discussed it at length, it's nice to see it in black and white, so that we know what it is.
When you go to a rating agency, we go to rating agency presentations, whenever we issue debt, they'll always ask about our fund balance policy. What's most important is that you have a policy and then you stick to your policy. Not, what the policy says is not quite as important as, because different towns have different policies. Some towns are, it has to be over a certain percentage, but there's no ceiling. That's sometimes do that also.
Okay, any questions?
I just have one, Tony, with the guidelines on the upper end. If we hopefully come out and it's a little higher than our guidelines, we then just do, is there a procedure for what we do at that point? I mean, I know.
There is, so it says, use of unassigned fund balance in excess of 14% will generally be limited to one-time non-recurring purposes, including land acquisition, that's the first one, capital projects, emergency response, or other non-recurring capital expenditures.
So I thought.
So that you don't, if you put it in the budget, and it's a recurring expenditure, then you won't have the following year.
Right.
I can't remember a time when it's been over 14%, other than the land purchase that you're talking about
Right.
in recent years.
It has not been, no.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
It
doesn't come up a lot.
took a big hit one year when we had the golf course.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, how about debt
So
policy?
the second is debt policy. The debt policy helps to define when the different types of debt and when you should issue debt. And for example, one thing is that individual projects with an estimated approximate cost of less than 1% of the operating budget is generally not financed through debt. So if we have a $50 million budget, $500,000 project. It's just to prevent you from issuing debt for capital, for projects that are small. And it just goes on to explain the different types of objectives. Another part I'll explain is there's different types of debt that can be issued that other towns issue. We usually only issue general obligation bonds and bond anticipation notes. Notes are temporary financing, typically when you have a project, if you have a large project, or for instance, the roof project. I'm not sure if we may issue notes for especially the site work, if we're not sure exactly how much we're gonna spend.
You're talking about Beecher.
For Beecher, right, because we don't wanna borrow too much.
Yeah.
And so, the roof is a little easier to predict, but, so we'll have to see how that plays out. Some towns do tax anticipation notes if they're having problems with tax collections. That's not a problem here.
Which is good.
Yeah. And some of our, the other item is the credit objectives, which I always examine, which is direct. And there's two types of debt. There's direct debt, which is our debt, and there's overlapping debt, which is our percentage of the Amity Regional School District. And so I like to examine, and I always look at our debt as a percentage of our grand list, debt per capita, our debt as a percentage of our total expenditures. Just make sure our debt is in line with a lot of these factors. And finally, percentage of our debt which is retired in the first 10 years, because generally debt is 20 years. That's to make sure you're not backloading your debt and putting it all out in the future. So that's our debt policy.
Any thoughts, questions, concerns?
If anyone has any questions or anything you want to change or whatever, just happy to review it.
Well, this is an old, 18,
Yeah.
16.
16,
2016.
So
Yeah.
it should, and it's good that we should be reviewing a lot of these policies.
So absolutely.
That are, more than 4 or 5 years old.
So my goal is that you could review this and you and then if you review it and you think it's okay, and then we can, I can update the dates on some of these.
So, that's a good idea, so
Yeah.
even if it's not changed, at least it's noted that
Yes.
it's been
Right.
It's been,
looked
it's
at.
been reviewed,
Right.
and
Current.
whatever.
Yeah, it's a good thought, actually, thank you.
Is this something that we can do ourselves, or does it have to be approved by the Board of Selectmen? In terms
Um,
of establishing policy?
Well, that's a good question. Historically, it has been approved by both boards as a matter of,
It's a matter of policy.
yeah.
I would hope, right?
But the Board of Finance has taken the on a lot of these policies,
Okay.
as the, financial board.
Yeah,
But
the
it's a
end
good
of the
point,
debt policy.
it's a good point, because you wanna be in sync, you want the boards to be in sync on that, so,
And both
The
boards
end of the
understand
debt
fully what the policies are.
right, yeah, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, the end of the debt policy, it says the boards of selectmen and finance will perform a periodic review of this policy, so.
So obviously, we're not, yeah, we're not gonna do this during the budget, right?
Right.
This is, okay, we got, but this is a heads up, so post-budget,
Yeah,
you know, we can kind of absorb this and figure out how we wanna, if we wanna proceed.
And just from a functional standpoint, does that mean forming a group that includes a board of selectmen person, a finance person, and yourself and some other expert, or is it just something we do internally?
We haven't gotten that far.
these policies, so generally, a lot of them are sort of models that are set by the Government Finance Officers Association, which is a nationwide sort of best practice government finance group. They have a website, actually, you can probably go on there, and there's all kinds of policies, if you're interested in such things. And,
I know what you're doing this summer.
Surf the web and start looking at policies.
so usually what I'll do is I take the ones that are most relevant to our government, and the ones I think that would be most important, and that's what I usually put them together, and I check other towns to, what their policies are, and that's how they come together.
Thank you.
Good, thank you.
That's good.
Okay.
Okay, appointment to Board of Finance member to the Investment Committee. What I would like to do is continue the tradition of having the Chair of Board of Finance stay on the Investment Committee. So I don't think we need a formal nomination process. If you're all okay with that, I'm just gonna appoint myself, learn what I can learn, and then we'll go to the next step.
That's fine.
Okay?
Sounds good to me.
Everybody okay? We'll call it a concurrence?
Yes.
All right, good, thank you. All right, I am now on the Investment Committee. You'll have to tell me when they meet, because I
Yeah.
know it's not very often.
We're waiting till this point.
Till this part, yeah.
Oh, okay, very good.
Who's on that committee, by the way?
So the committee consists of the treasurer, an appointment by the Board of Selectmen, which I believe is Steve Munn, right?
Oh,
Susan. And then two at-large members appointed by the Board of Selectmen, which is Lore and Jeff Kennedy.
and am I serving a term, or is it concurrent with my term here on the Board of Finance?
It's concurrent with your term
On the Board of Finance, so the at-large people serve a term of some kind. Okay, so,
That's fine.
all right. All right, good. So I thought we'd have a little bit of a conversation of how we want to meet over the course of the next 12 months. Obviously, budget.
We have minutes. Skip the minutes.
Oh, I'm sorry, skip number 6, because it's so
Yeah,
complicated.
it's because there's a big one.
Because it's like, who was here when? I'm blocking on this. Tom, you cannot vote on the January,
I can't vote on any of these, I'm going to abstain for all of them. I
oh,
was
that
not-
makes it much
Yeah,
easier.
I was not at any of them.
And Beth cannot vote on December 21 or January 8 because she was
Right.
still for selectmen.
Right. Well, not on January 8th, but I still wasn't appointed to the Board of Finance, so.
Okay.
Right.
So that means, do we have a quorum 23rd, 25th, 30th, and 1st?
Before? Here was it?
Yeah.
You were on, right?
You were on the 8th, but not on the
Three on the
No, it's
21st.
around
Yeah, there's only
No.
3 on the 21st.
Okay, so here, I'm gonna suggest that we accept the minutes of the 21st
Right.
without a formal motion, because otherwise we'll be dancing this dance for the next 6 months. Is everybody okay with that? We're not voting, there's no
Yeah, there's
formal
nothing's
motion.
gonna change.
Okay. January 8, I think it's the same thing.
Yeah, and that's why we tabled them, because we thought,
Right.
but you,
But Javier was not on yet, and Javier
Right.
was back. So I'm gonna suggest
Yeah, I
that we.
was here, Donovan, and Tom, and Ellen.
Was I here on the 8th?
Yes, you were here, you were at the meeting on the 8th.
I don't think Ellen was up here at the meeting.
Ellen was at the
yes, it's
meeting.
right here. The 8th was Dwight, Donovan, Tom, and
And
Ellen.
And Ellen,
Was I here?
no.
No, I was in the
No,
gym.
no.
So we don't have a quorum.
Yes.
Oh, that was the night when I couldn't
That was the
come,
gym
right?
one, right?
Yeah, that's the same
Yes.
scenario.
So we have to accept those.
So I'm gonna suggest that we just accept those without a formal motion,
That's
okay?
fine. Yeah.
And I believe we have a quorum to vote for the rest of them, correct? So
Yeah.
I will entertain a motion, I'm gonna do them all at once.
That's fine.
I'm gonna entertain a motion for approval of the minutes of the Board of Finance from January 23, 24, January 25, 24, January 30, 24, and February 1, 24. Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion?
Yeah, I'm gonna suggest the same correction for all of the minutes, 23rd, both meetings on the 25th, the 30th and the 1st. On page 1, list of attendees, for the name correction of my name to JAVIER AVILES.
Say it again. Oh,
It's correct
Sorry.
phonetically.
Phonetically.
J-A-V.
But not-
I'm sorry about that.
We say Javier, so.
I've been showing your name wrong this whole time, who knew?
Correct.
Okay, you got that?
Got it.
Thank you, Javier. Anything else?
Looks good.
Okay. All in favor of accepting the minutes? Anybody opposed? Any abstentions?
I abstain.
Very good, okay, very efficient. Future Board of Finance meetings, in person? Virtual? This is also a post-budget discussion, because budget we're gonna be in person, obviously. Strong thoughts, no thoughts?
I like in person. Personally, I like to be there so we can have discussion. It's so tough to do it over the computer and over the phone. Even though we're here a half hour, 45 minutes, I think it's important for us to get our plan across. That's just me, that's my 2 cents.
Okay.
And the other thing I'll say, I think we need to look it up, because I believe state law says that you have to have a remote option for boards and commissions. So even if we say we're going to meet in person, we have to have a remote option for someone who can't make it in. I think that's the state law after COVID. So we should just,
Yeah, which we don't.
right, we don't, because I looked it up, because there was one meeting that I couldn't make it, and for technical reasons, and it was, I understood why we were doing it, but someone said, well, they should have had a remote option, and I said.
Sort of a hybrid thing, but.
But it'd have to have a hybrid option.
We'd be here and you'd be able to tune in.
Yeah, or any of us, if.
Got it.
Does the high school do that? I think the board meetings at the high school do that. They
We
do
did it as.
a combination. I think they do
We have
a
the
combination.
technology is there to do that, it's certainly not an issue, it's just a matter of setting it up.
The only reason I'm bringing it up is because if we decide to do it in person, which I think we probably will want to do, we
Yeah.
just have to know that we must have an option.
But am I correct that the technology that the Board of Selectmen uses, it's not a Zoom technology? It's something
No,
else?
it's the OWL.
It's the OWL,
It requires
right.
someone to set up and
It's this
operate.
thing that,
Right.
yeah.
Right.
It's a little more complex.
Yeah.
Well, no, you still set up, the Zoom is a platform, or it's WebEx, or whatever video
Right.
platform you use, is the platform you use in order to conference. The OWL technology is the technology you use to project it on there and to make sure people hear each other, and you can have a more effective gathering, because you're seeing them, they're seeing you, and it's
Right.
almost as if they're here.
So if Tom is correct, that we need to have that option, we need to get that set up,
Right.
okay?
And I don't know whether we need to use the OWL. I think it may just be that you need to have a WebEx or
Or-
a Zoom or whatever.
So in order to have a hybrid setup, you have to use the OWL, because the OWL is what talks to Zoom.
Right.
Otherwise, it's
That's
all
right.
online or
And
all in
it's-
person.
It's not as,
Right.
it's not as
Right.
effective.
You
The
can't
OWL
do it.
really makes it.
Yeah, the OWL is the best way of doing it.
Yeah.
It's just-
And we have, it's here, and we should use, so,
We have it.
Matt, correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah,
So-
we've been using it a few times over the last few months to do some hybrid meetings. We just had a Board of Selectmen meeting a couple of months ago that required hybrid because 2 members of the board couldn't make it, and we were able to run that no problem and stream it to TV Land for the folks at home as well.
Exactly, and they were projected on 2 individuals, projected on the screen, if you had your screen in front of you, you were
Yeah.
watching them here. And when they spoke, you heard them, and when you spoke, they heard you, you know what I mean? Obviously, it depends on what they have for audio, but
Right.
So
But
it's,
it's-
we want to comply, number
Mhm.
1, and number 2, we're mindful that people do go away. Some people have little kids, and things happen,
Right.
weather, et cetera. So maybe we should just be
That's fine.
mindful of that and go forward with
That
that.
works.
Okay, good, good. I'm glad we talked about it.
I mean, I would like to echo Dwight's point about it being more effective and efficient when we
Okay.
meet in person. But also, I think our backup plan shouldn't be our primary plan in terms of doing business.
I agree.
So
I agree.
strongly support in
No,
person.
I just think it's important for us, because when you share information, it's good to have people there and you have discussion. When you're looking on the computer, you're fighting each other, you know, you get
Well, yeah, I mean,
broken up.
aside from the technology issues, it also fosters more public participation. That's gonna be an issue, obviously, during budget season.
Well, budget is no question,
Yeah.
we're gonna be in person for all of that. But I'm mindful of the fact that over the summer, sometimes people are away, you know, as I said, fall comes, snow, so anyway, let's just get it.
And I'm just gonna make a point, I like being in person, but having spent my entire career virtual, I think you can be very effective in a virtual one. So I don't want us to come across saying that we have to be in person because it's more effective or efficient. I think it's a preference.
All right, so stay tuned, because for the moment, we're in person.
Right. Which is good.
In person with technology that allows for.
In person with compliance,
As
which
needed.
we have to look into here, okay.
Okay, good, that's fine. That's good though, Tom, I didn't know that, I didn't know we had that.
Yeah, someone told me and I was surprised 'cause
Okay, that's
Okay.
good, all right.
First selectmen's report? Do you have anything to say?
Sure. We had our meeting yesterday, there were a couple of things that I think we're mentioning. We got approval for me to sign a resolution for a brownfield planning grant for CCW. It is a planning grant, it will allow us to do, to assess what remediation might be required at there. It also might help very much so in terms of our efforts if we should go forward with the CCW consulting RFP. And as we look to select a partner to work with, this grant money also captures much of what a consultant who would help us do that would do. So this is very timely. Fortunately, it's due by March 1st, so we're going to try to get it done. But it is something that, and it's as high as 250. I don't think we'll go that high in terms of what we can, because it is somewhat limited in terms of the total amount available from the state. So if you ask for too much, you know what I mean, say, and we're really going to try to target it to things that we really feel are needed. Additionally, I also had authorization from the board to sign 2 non-binding letters of intent as relates to the country club. This is specifically letters of intent from solar company Green Skies. And the reason for the letters of intent, they provided us a basic, what I'll call an illustrative or proposal in terms of what we can do with ground solar at the country club. It's not a proposal that we're tied to in any way, shape, or form or anything along those lines, but it just opens up the opportunity for us to start discussions at some point in time. But the Green Skies has agreed to, if we sign the LOA, they've agreed to submit an application for capacity, to reserve capacity. So in order to do anything with, you know, from a solar perspective there, you need to have capacity reserved on the phase 3 grid that UI provides. Those applications usually cost anywhere from $10,000 to $15,000 each. We're doing one for Country Club. We're also doing one for the Acorn Hill. Acorn Hill we've looked at before. It was thought to be prohibitive because they only have phase 2 there, and getting to phase 3, the build out to get to phase 3 was somewhat prohibitive. However, because they're doing this, we'll know for sure what it is, and we'll be able to assess whether it might be valuable, and that would be an unbelievably great site to consider there. So those are the 2.
Acorn Hill, where on Acorn Hill?
It would be where the
On the landfill there, oh, that's what I was
As a
gonna
matter of
think, I
fact,
didn't-
because it is a landfill, there's actually incentives for doing it in those kinds of spaces, because there's usually nothing else there, usually wide open.
It's always wide
Right,
open.
right, so there's
I
a
mean,
very good
nobody really-
opportunity.
Other than I see a guy with his dog walking around, but other than that, or you see deer at times, so other than that, it's like
In Acorn Hill, the situation there
acres.
with the fact that it's not near phase 3 and the build-up being prohibitive is the reason it's so important, the reason we push to see if we can get this done sooner rather than later. Because if somebody else reserved capacity, it's open to whoever wants to do it, and we lose that capacity, then we would have the same
It's a
situation.
good location,
at
too.
the
It's
country
perfect.
club in terms of
Yeah.
the
There's
expense to
nothing
get there where we
around,
just get.
gets the sun.
Is the capacity set every year? Is that what happens?
No, actually, it just depends on UI, what they have, and then they go, generally, for example, you can gain more capacity because let's say, for example, the Acorn Hill, we decide, okay, it's worth it, and we combine and we build out. So to phase 3, that might provide an opportunity for somebody else nearby, depending on how much capacity. But until that happens, you're paying full freight,
Right.
that type of thing, so.
Well, there is a limited capacity in terms of number of participants. that
There's
the
a
government
limited
program
capacity
takes
per
each
year.
year?
It's not the program, it's technically, functionally what the grid will take, you know, what the capacity of the.
Right, but I thought we were taking advantage of a program that we're receiving supplemental funds.
We can, and that usually is, you have to apply before the SCEF and the NRAS, I think it is.
Right.
And those programs are annual, like it's
Yeah,
March,
that's-
first of March each
That's what I was
year.
thinking of.
But from a capacity standpoint, capacity isn't tied to that.
Oh, no,
Capacity
no,
is
yeah.
just to get the space to reserve, so you can start, if you're gonna apply for something like that,
Supplying
you wanna
to the
have
grid, yeah.
capacity reserved, so you can take advantage of it.
Yep.
If you don't have capacity, you're not,
So UI determines what they'll accept, is that really how it works?
In
I don't
terms-
understand what the capacity piece is, and maybe this isn't enough about it,
I'm not as technical as I could be on it, Tom, but basically it's what you would expect if you have 110 at your house and you wanna plug in something that you can't plug into 110, you gotta upgrade. You know what I mean?
It's like trying to fill your tire with.
But,
a straw.
maybe we take this offline for whatever, because I don't want to.
I think we're in the weeds.
Yeah.
The example he uses is just, it's an on-ramp, it's an
Right.
on-ramp, there's so many lanes, if you don't have a lane to go into, you can't do anything. You can't use that highway, is really what it was now.
Okay.
The other, we also discussed the town center connectivity grant, and that was courtesy of our previous administrator, thank you, Pat, our previous administrator. This is for the sidewalks here in
Oh, the
the center.
sidewalks, I was thinking about also down below,
No, this one is here, this one is here,
Finally.
at the, yes, exactly.
Maybe?
Yeah, it looks like we're looking to move forward on that.
Almost there.
So we did an overview of exactly what that entails, and that's just a sidewalk structure that really connects the high school, that piece of Newton Road that goes from the high school into the town center on the side of the church over here. And it'll give particularly the students who travel from there to the ball fields, a sidewalk to walk on rather than doing what they do now, which is walking in the road. So we're anxious to that. And it also provides light posts that go around to the library and some other functionality that, it'll fix the sidewalk out here so we're excited about that. That's a positive thing. We have made, and the board agreed with my decision to retain Burcham and Moses as our town attorney going forward. Gentleman, Attorney Nick Beaumonte will be our primary town counsel. He'll be attending our meetings. I don't know if you've known him from the past or anything, but and his, one of his seniors, Ira Bloom, will also be assisting him as necessary. We're excited. We interviewed a number of very prominent firms, and they were very proactive. Their references were excellent, and there were towns like us, and they focus on municipal law. A lot of the law firms have municipal branches or departments, but these guys, this is what this group does. So we're excited about that and anxious to start working with them. And we also filled almost all of the positions on EDC. So we are going to reestablish our Economic Development Commission. We have a resource from Rex, who's works very well with, or has worked very long with economic development and economic development groups within different towns. And he's done everything like long-range planning, cluster strategy, business recruitment, resource development. He's going to provide an overview on the 29th at the first meeting with these new members to establish some objectives in terms of, I'll be there as well to establish what we're looking to do, and he'll start helping them identify and understand how we get there. So I'm excited about that too. And just for purposes of everyone knowing, we have a compost lecture at the library at 3 o'clock on this Saturday, 17th. We have a DEI conversation on disability on the 28th at the library at 7 o'clock. And Earth Day, which is going to be a very big event in town here this year, will be on April 27th. So, any questions or anything you may have heard that you might have a question on?
Sounds great.
Thank you.
Liaison reports. Anybody wanna talk about future? Oh, they didn't meet. You said they didn't meet.
They didn't meet, they did ask, I had a conversation with them, but there was a question about, because Tony, I don't know if they talked to you about it, in their budget, they assumed the pool wasn't gonna be functioning. So in the 24-25 budget, they didn't include some
Utilities. Right. They did talk to me about that.
Okay.
Okay. Any other?
And then there's also, they've also raised the question of what's going on with the pool.
That's a bigger question.
No, I mean, during the summer months
Right.
when they're fixing up the roof. But other than that, I think that their numbers look pretty good. I saw the numbers ahead, they're, of course, doing some pretty good things.
Any other liaison comments?
So I attended the Island Regional Committee on Monday, and there's a preliminary increase of 4.58%, preliminary, not approved. And we're expecting a credit of $462,000.
462, yeah.
Coming back to the towns. So that's where we are so far.
Okay.
Meet again in another month to see, if people will approve or make further cuts, but that's where we are right now.
Thank you. Anybody else?
For the cuts, it's good.
I just want to say, I want to thank all the departments who came in and made presentations over the course of the budget cycle meetings in January. Very constructive information. Everybody provided context for what they, not just what the numbers are, but what they do, and I think that was very helpful to a lot of people. Obviously, there's a lot of work to be done going forward in terms of the budget process, but it was a very constructive and helpful beginning.
Well, this year, we can go back to our regular rate. We can do operating in December. I mean, see the capital in December, operating in January, as we normally do. 'cause
You mean the
we're not-
end of 2024?
At the end of 2024.
Oh, you're way ahead of me.
No, I'm just saying, but I think, talking to people, it's, doing the capital and the operating together was tough. And it was tough to present, because it mixed capital with their operating budget and all that. And I think if we did them separately, would help at least some of the understanding of their needs.
I might take issue with you on that.
I don't know, I just-
I actually thought it was very efficient. I think people understood the differences. I don't know how the departments felt about it. I think, at least from where I sat, I found it to be kind of a natural way to talk about the numbers going
I
forward.
heard from a couple of department chairs that were actually happy to come out only one night.
One night,
Said,
right.
"Come
And as someone who was
I don't
listening,
know,
it was pretty clear what was going
I don't
on.
know.
And the other
Yeah.
thing, I'm just concerned that what will happen is every other year, every whatever year.
Well, that's what
we'll have that
DSO
same
said, yes,
position, and I
we're
think we
going,
should
so
just.
we're gonna continue this process. Well, that's something we can talk about.
Yeah, we could talk about that more going
Moving
forward, what worked, what didn't work.
From the selectmen's perspective, the feedback I got was what we did was good.
Yeah.
What we did this year was good. And
And I
I
think-
personally feel that it was.
And I think, again, the problem is, it was new for us this year, but it's gonna be that way, how often do we vote for? Every 2 years.
Every other year.
And that would mean that every 2 years we'd be in the same position, so I think we should just establish a procedure. that would-
I think actually you guys should figure out what works for your office,
Well,
also, because that's important.
Yeah, and the most important thing is to balance each night so that we have equity in terms of the lengths of the presentations
Right.
and which departments are presenting.
Right.
I think we probably have one night that too many larger departments and
Well, there's
another
only
night
so
that
much you
didn't
can
have any,
do.
but.
Yeah, everything,
Yeah.
all those contributions are important. I will say that in years past, I mean, the reason I think we may have a significant surplus is because you no longer serve us cookies. So that the night goes on forever and nobody has a cookie break, but I'm just saying, we must be saving $10,000 in cookies here. But I thought it worked. I may have to suggest bringing back the cookies. All right, anything else? I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Everybody vote. Okay, good night, go home.
Thank you.